for your vigilance and your sacrifice. So we have time for questions. There are 4 microphones, 2 here, 2 up there. Please approach the microphone if you'd like to ask a question. I ask that you identify yourselves when asking a question, and I ask that you ask questions that are short and that end with a question mark. Please.
Mr. Khan, first of all, thank you very much for coming here and speaking to us. It's truly a humbling experience being here with you. My name is Hemal Sampat. I'm an instructor of medicine at the medical school, and I'm also a hospitalist at Massachusetts General Hospital. In today's environment, it feels like there's a lot of speaking going on, but not a lot of actual hearing. And I'm sure that you've heard your fair share of hurtful things from people who support the president. But my question to you is, have you ever had a conversation with, has somebody who supports the president ever come up to you to actually have a conversation? And if that never has happened, if somebody did come up and said, I respect you, but I still support a ban for such and such reason, how would you approach them? What would you say to them?
Yeah. What I have said publicly, I really have no desire, because there's just neither forum nor topic of interest that we will discuss or we will speak. Plus, I'm a private, humble citizen. I am not of that stature to speak to the officials of this country. So I have no desire for that. But this I have said as a private citizen in public, and I say it now, that these bans and these executive orders are not accomplishing what is claimed that is being accomplished. 2 examples. For example, most of the Muslim community in the country feels alienated. When a community is alienated, it doesn't take any scholar to figure it out. Those who wish us bad begin to infiltrate that community. And it has happened. International media is witness to that the recruitment within the Muslim community, effort of recruitment is heightened because of after the executive order. The rest of the world, don't ask me, ask the experts of the security, the intelligence of this country, and they will tell you that it has given fertile ground, it has made Muslims of those countries fertile ground to do harm. Therefore, if interest of my country is being exploited under the name of, well, it is for the security of the country, and it is not. Experts have spoken, experts have written, they have said unanimously it. Therefore, my only obligation is to speak loudly, speak forcefully, continue to say what I believe and what I say when I see that values the dignity, the safety of my country, and those men and women that serve us well. In every comment that I make in each community, I am very much cognizant of the sacrifices that our armed forces, their families make, our law enforcement makes, and their families make every day. Those intelligence officers will tell you we have no face to go back to our sources in those countries and ask them for help. They say, wait a minute, is that what your policies are? Don't come to us anymore. So how these executive orders and this kind of rhetoric has served my country? It is obligatory on all of us as leaders, as future leaders of this mankind, that we speak about it, that we remain united, that we support one another in whatever modest gestures we can. If some of us can launch a protest, yes, because you are the custodian of the moral compass for the humanity. This institution has blessed you with that ability. When I finished my LLM program here, Dean Smith asked a question. He said, Khizr, what have you learned And I said, two things, Dean Smith, I have learned that how little I know. I was full of myself before I came here. After coming here, I have learned how little I know. And the second thing I have learned, that whatever little I know, with the moral compass, I shall speak loudly, I shall speak with full force and with full enthusiasm, whatever little I know. And so Harvard Law School gave me moral compass to carry it all steps of your life. You carry it and you will be so empowered. You will be so powerful in whatever position you take. Doesn't have to be constitutional position, in communities, in different professions. As long as you have that moral compass guiding you, you will never fail.
I'd say you learn the lessons well that we aim for. Question over here.
Again, thank you so much for being here. It's such an inspiration to have you here. And thank you for the work that you're doing for the Muslim American community. My name is Rana Abdul Hamid, and I'm a second-year Master's in Public Policy student at the Kennedy School, and I'm also a gender justice advocate within the Muslim American community. We all watched, I'm sure a lot of people in this audience watched, as unfortunately Ms. Khizr Khan was put under the microscope after the DNC speech, and I also watched how gracefully your family handled that. My question is related to how the Muslim American community can navigate these really hard situations where there are real issues in the Muslim American community, but oftentimes when those are raised, these issues are being co-opted by people who are trying to turn them against and further stereotype and discriminate against the Muslim community. If you've thought about that in the past, and if you could just talk about your experience dealing with that situation. Thank you.
Wonderful question. I have felt very heartened in the Muslim community when Muslim community has joined hands with other faiths. When you join hands with other faiths, you're much stronger. And when you assimilate, after all, by choice, we are Americans. Nobody forced us to be here. We are by choice. When you adopt this as your country, when you're ready to defend it and its values, you're much more powerful, much more impactful, your work, and support one another. I was at one of the Muslim communities gathering, and I said to them, don't expect other faiths to come to you. Go to them. Go to their place of worship. Go to their events. Ask them what concerns them. Then invite them to your community. Then invite them to your places of worship. And you will have solidarity with other faiths. Let me share something that I must. We have received thousands and thousands of letters, cards, and letters and things. There is one letter that was so telling. It is written by a retired army nurse of the Second World War. And she writes in her 26-page letter, she details what she has done, what her experience was, what her observations were. And at the end, she said, Mr. Khan, don't stop speaking. Don't stop standing. Had somebody during Second World War stood up to the forces of that moment, the atrocities that my Jewish brothers and sisters have suffered could have been stopped. Mr. Khan, do not stop. Continue to speak. Make sure that other parts of the country are also with you. So it is that kind of reminders that we all should keep in mind, that not only as Muslim, but as citizen of this country, as Americans, we have an obligation to ourselves, to our country, to the mankind, that we continue to speak, continue to resist. Mayor Mike Signer of Charlottesville, Virginia, under the shadow of Monticello, declared 2 weeks ago Charlottesville to be the capital of the resistance. Capital of the resistance. These gestures are necessary under these difficult times. Such gestures remain standing with one another, simply saying to each other, I am with you, I support you, are absolutely necessary. Therefore, as Muslim community, we have this obligation. We are direct beneficiary of this wonderful heritage that we have received, the values, the constitutional protections, and we should remain standing firmly in favor and in defense of these values.
And it's such a powerful point to note that we have to do this together, especially since that is what really brought about the first civil rights movement with people who were American and became Muslim, and they worked with Christians who were here and with Jews and others of no faith tradition at all. And so it seems like there's another moment upon us where all of that is required. I want to go up here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Khan, for speaking. My name is Isabel Bernhard, and I'm a first-year undergraduate. I'd like to go back to a theme you were talking about the moral compass and the lack of it in the Trump administration. And when pundits or when citizens try to call out the administration on their actions, Trump officials often say that they're former Hillary supporters who are trying to repackage their campaign attempts. So I'd like to ask, how do we apoliticize the issue of morality or this moral compass? Is it a question of what topics do we treat or with whom do we speak about them?
Yeah. Well, thank you for a wonderful question. I have been titled all kind of nonsense, good and bad and all of that. That's all fine. I'm okay. It doesn't challenge my, neither my thinking nor my stand. Speaking in your mind, when you apply your understanding of the issues, of your stand, of your position, once you have wrestled in your mind and you have decided my being, my understanding, my knowledge, my education, my faith dictates that this is the right decision, that becomes the moral compass. There is no book that we can pick up and say, this is what moral compass, people that practice should do this and should not do this. Not at all. There are lots of people that don't agree with us or with me. They're as good citizens with moral compass as anyone else or as myself, so there is nothing wrong with that. It depends on how much care, because we as human beings living in this time where world has become interdependent, certain values are absolutely necessary to be maintained and to be practiced, and that is such a basic thing, care of others. Mm-hmm. That is what Captain Humayun Khan was all about, care of others. That is what brought us to this limelight, to our peril. That is what sometime threatens me to continue to walk, but mostly positive, at airports, at public places. You know, Starbucks never gives you a free coffee. Whenever I go to Starbucks, I get a free coffee. I am just amazed at the kindness of people, various ways of support and all that. So I feel heartened that I think our moral compass is leading in the right direction because it is for the care of others. Just that, remember throughout your life that as long as whatever actions you take, whatever professions you pursue, whatever fields you pursue, you engage in, as long as there is some factor, some element of care for others, it could be at individual basis, at national basis, at international basis, care of others, and you will move all of us forward. Mankind is headed that way. Those that want to lead will be up front, leading with the care of others in mind and in their hearts, and we all will be following them. That is where the mankind is headed. This country has us. Never underestimate the place that this country had been placed in the history of mankind. Don't let this momentary dark chapter undervalue the role of this country throughout the mankind's history. If you pause and think, we are the most blessed nation, assigned this task to lead the mankind forward, not backward. And we are doing that, this barring the small and insignificant dark chapter that we are all going through.
So I'll break with forum tradition once more and ask for 3 questions from those first standing at the microphones together, and then give it to you for any last words in addressing any of those questions, with apologies to those who are not standing right at the mic. So let's start with you. And please keep your questions short. We're almost at time.
Thank you for being here. My name is Sudeep. I'm a second-year MBA student at the business school. My question, I've been surprised to learn that Islamophobia in this country actually really originates from a relatively small network of think tanks and grassroots organizations that peddle conspiracy theories and hatred and fear-mongering that then find their way into the right-wing media and become mainstream. My question is just, what specific strategies could you recommend for discrediting those specific organizations and specific people? Because it seems like there is a pretty small network there, and we'd love to get your thoughts on how to deal with those.
Thank you. Up here.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for your service. I'm Mitchell Leibowitz. I'm a PhD candidate in biomedical sciences, and as a UVA alum, wahoo wah. So I'm wondering how you think that we can reconcile our country's history of oppression and even where we are now, and how we can, simply how can we reconcile those who created our founding documents didn't necessarily espouse the views that we espouse today towards equality?
Thank you. And final question.
Hi, my name is Zayed Yassin. I'm an emergency physician at the Brigham and Women's Hospital. Thank you so much for spending your time with us this evening. Your son gave his life in the service of his country during a war that was not of his choosing, but a war that was of his country's choosing. And I would love to hear you talk a little bit more about your feelings about that war, the way it was entered into, and the way it was conducted.
So all very small questions for you to wrap up with. But you can choose to say anything.
Quickly, the last question I answer first. As a family and as an individual, I was against the war. That evidence was fabricated. That was wrong. I was not loud enough, but I was, at least to my level, smart enough to know that that war will not serve our purpose. I was with the people that were against the war, but look at the dilemma. My son is getting ready to be deployed to Iraq. We are against that war because we could foresee that it will not serve the interest of my nation. And we had that conversation with Captain Humayun Khan, and he said, look, I'm an army officer. I don't think on those lines. My duty is to take care of my men and women. I shall do that. And so he went in taking care of men and women. He said, I took the oath of office to defend the Constitution of the United States, and I shall do that. And he did that. So we then were, we now are against that, but sometimes you have to yield to the preferences of your grown, adult, patriot children. So we did. In answer to your question, I had written something that I must read. It's just couple of paragraphs. I'm getting ready to go to Oxford Union for a debate, and so I was preparing my notes The reason is that every event that I have gone, you had been very kind. People have asked me, what do you think, why we have Trump? Why we have Trump? By Trump, I don't mean just the individual, I mean the mentality, the group, the practice, the claims, the threats, the fears. Why do we have? Why did we have Brexit? And there are learned scholars sitting here, so I will read just one paragraph. There lies the answer. This paragraph was written in 1998, Professor, by Richard Rorty, our famous philosopher. Please listen to this and you will find the answer and you will find something to ponder after we disperse from here. Here it is. And he writes in 1998, remember the year, members of labor unions and unorganized, unskilled workers will sooner or later realize that their government is not even trying to prevent wages from sinking or to prevent jobs from being exported. He wrote in 1998. Around the same time, they will realize that suburban white-collar workers themselves, desperately afraid of being downsized, are not going to let themselves be taxed to provide social benefits for anyone else. At that point, he writes in 1998, at that point, something will crack. The non-suburban electorate will decide that the system has failed and start looking around for a strong man to vote for. Someone willing to assure them, whatever false those assurances may be, someone willing to assure them that once he's elected, the smug bureaucrats, lawyers, overpaid bondsmen, and postmodernist professors will no longer be calling the shots. Look at the rhetoric of this election and follow this, what was written in 19. One thing that is very likely to happen is that the gains made in the past 40 years by blacks and browns will be wiped out. Civil rights. Jocular contempt of women will come back into fashion. Women don't deserve equal respect. All the resentment which badly educated Americans feel about having their manners dictated to them by college graduates will find an outlet in a strong man. Think about it. This was predicted. This was predicted. So you will say, well, what is the answer? In discussing with at home, we found the answer. And that answer is inclusive. Remember these words. We are sitting under the most prestigious academic institution. Remember these two words. Inclusive globalism. This globalism had been exclusive of those who did not have the skills or education. If we can turn it around, we talk about globalism, if we can turn it around and make it inclusive globalism, you're the leaders, you're going to lead us in that direction. That is where lies the solution, inclusive globalism.
Problem solved. Thank you.
Thank you. Please be seated. Thank you. Thank you.